Metal screamed under his feet as Flameheart stood on the deck of the Zarnak warship. The soldiers around him froze, unsure whether to run or shoot. His armor was cracked, glowing with fire. His chest rose and fell with slow, heavy breaths. Sparks flew from his back. One of his arms hung damaged, wires exposed, but he did not stop. He raised his remaining weapon, and he charged. The hallway filled with fire. Zarnak soldiers were trained to kill, but nothing in their training had prepared them for a man who had already died inside. He moved like a storm. Bullets bounced off his armor. Flames followed him like a shadow. One by one he tore through them, until none stood between him and the ship's core. Behind the walls, the command crew screamed, "Shut the blast doors!" Too late. He broke through. The core room exploded in red light as Flameheart entered. He didn't speak. He simply opened the chest panel of his suit, revealing a small, round sphere glowing blue. The ship's artificial mind recognized it instantly. That's a human antimatter pulse. If it goes off, but it was already active. The countdown began. On the nearby Zarnak ships, panic spread fast. "He's going to blow the whole sector," one officer yelled. "Get him out. Get him out now." But there was no time. Flameheart stood at the center of the warship, holding the sphere against his chest, locking it in. There was no escape pod, no backup, and he didn't want one. In his final seconds, he looked at the small wooden bird strapped to his chest. "Ellie," he whispered, "I'm coming home." The explosion ripped through space. It didn't just destroy the warship, it tore the other two ships apart like paper. Fire rolled across the stars. The Zarnak fleet, watching from afar, went silent. In the war room on Earth, the signal cut out. General Reeves stared at the dark screen. Flameheart, but nothing came back. The room fell quiet. No one moved. Then the screen flickered one last time. A single frame appeared, one final image from his suit's camera. A picture of Ellie, smiling, laughing, alive in memory. And then, it was gone. Across Earth, people stopped what they were doing. News anchors cried on live TV. Children placed drawings at the foot of Flameheart's statue, but the war didn't stop. Not yet. What Flameheart started, Earth finished. With every Zarnak base they reached, the humans didn't shout. They whispered one name. For the children. And the Zarnak, once proud and cruel, began to fear the fire they had created. Years later, when peace was signed, a new monument was built in the center of Earth's capital. It had no weapons, no flags, only a small bronze figure. A little girl, holding a wooden bird, and beside her the words, "He didn't burn for revenge, he burned for love." Smoke covered the halls of the Zarnak moon base. Bodies of soldiers lay scattered like broken glass. Fire crawled across the ceilings. Alarms were gone. Lights were dead. The only sound now was metal footsteps. Flameheart walked through the destruction he had made, slow and calm. His armor was scratched, glowing red. His breath echoed like thunder in the empty halls. Every step he took left behind a black mark. He didn't rush. He didn't need to. He was hunting. At the heart of the base, the Zarnak general stood in a tall room with high walls. Around him were guards, trained killers, strong and cruel. But none of them spoke now. Their hands trembled. Their faces were pale. The general raised his weapon. "He's just a man, burn him!" But no one moved. They heard him before they saw him. A soft thump. Another. And then the door melted. It didn't open. It melted, like paper caught in fire. Flameheart stepped through the smoke. His armor burned brighter now. His helmet was cracked. Part of his human face showed beneath, his eye filled with rage and pain. He looked at the guards. They fired. He didn't stop. He moved like a wave of heat. Too fast, too sharp. The room filled with screams, metal and flame. In seconds, all guards were gone, only the general remained. He backed away, dragging his leg, eyes wide. "We didn't know they were children," the general begged. "It was just a target. We thought it was a base." Flameheart stood over him. They were children, he said coldly. They laughed. They dreamed. They played in the snow. It wasn't me, the general cried. Orders came from the high command. Flameheart leaned closer. Then I'll visit them next. The general tried to run. He didn't get far. Outside the base, the moon cracked as a wave of fire erupted from the heart of the building. Earth's spy satellites captured the final blast. The Zarnak moon base. Gone. Nothing left but dust and floating metal. Back on Earth, people watched in silence. Not just soldiers, families, teachers, workers. News screens across the planet repeated one message. He did it for the children. In the war room, General Reeve stood in front of the command screen. A live signal came through, shaky, full of static. It showed Flameheart, bloodied and burned, walking through a black field of ash. Report, Reeve said. Flameheart stopped walking. The moon is dead. Do you need backup? No, Flameheart replied. I need coordinates of the next command center. Reeve looked at his officers. We said we'd defend Earth, one of them whispered. But this is something else. Reeve nodded. This is firefighting fire. The signal returned to static. In a dark room, alone, Flameheart removed part of his armor. His body was shaking. He opened a small compartment in his suit and took out a half-burnt toy. A wooden bird. Ellie's bird. He stared at it. His voice broke for the first time. I'm sorry, he whispered. And then a new alert came in. The Zarnak High Command had sent a message to Earth. Call off your weapon, or we will erase your cities. But Earth didn't reply with fear. They replied with a name. We didn't send a weapon, we sent a father. And Flameheart was already on his way. The Zarnak High Command did not sleep. They ruled from a floating fortress called the Crown, built between 3 suns in a dead star system. It was a place where no plant could grow. No child could laugh. Only power mattered here. Inside, the commanders sat in black thrones, watching the war updates. They had expected Earth to cry, to kneel. But Earth didn't cry, and Flameheart didn't kneel. The news of the destroyed moon base reached them quickly. The video, burning buildings, soldiers turning to ash, and one man walking alone through fire, played on every alien screen. They watched Flameheart's face, half covered in his burning armor, half exposed and human. That thing, one, commander said, is not a soldier. He's not human anymore, said another. No, replied the supreme commander. He is something worse. He is grief with a name. The Zarnak sent assassins. They sent traps. They sent fleets. None returned. Every time Flameheart arrived at a Zarnak base, fire followed. He didn't spare weapons. He didn't spare leaders. And he never spoke twice. His war was not about borders or resources. It was personal. Back on Earth, whispers turned into songs. Children drew pictures of a man in glowing armor holding hands with lost orphans. Soldiers tattooed the word Ellie on their arms. Some said Flameheart wasn't real. Others said he was a ghost sent by the planet itself. But one thing was clear. Hope had returned. In space, Flameheart floated inside his ship, silent. In front of him was a 3D map of Zarnak territory. Red circles marked every base he had destroyed. He was getting closer to the heart. Suddenly, a signal appeared. A strange, soft voice. Human warrior, it said. This is not a trap. Please don't destroy us. We are not Zarnak. Flameheart's eyes narrowed. Speak. The voice came from a small ship drifting near a dark asteroid belt. Flameheart changed course and found the source, a tiny station, built from broken parts. Inside, he saw something strange. Aliens. But not Zarnak. They were thin, scared, and weak. Mothers held small children. Old ones leaned on sticks. They all looked terrified. We are the Ashen, said the leader, bowing low. We were slaves to the Zarnak. We ran when the war began. Please, don't burn us. Flameheart looked around. There were no weapons, no soldiers, just families. He stepped closer to the leader. "Did you help bomb Earth?" he asked. The Ashen leader fell to his knees. "No. We were the ones forced to clean the blood." Flameheart didn't raise his weapon. Instead, he gave the leader a small data chip. "These are Earth safe zones," he said. "Go, be free." The Ashen wept. It was the first time in years someone showed them mercy, and Flameheart walked away. But the Zarnak had seen it. They sent a message across the stars. "Even the fire shows mercy, then we shall show none." 3 Zarnak capital ships appeared behind Flameheart's vessel. They didn't send warnings, they opened fire. His ship shook. Alarm screamed. For the first time, Flameheart's systems failed. The cockpit filled with sparks. He was going down. Flameheart took a deep breath. He grabbed the bird, the burnt toy, from his belt and kissed it once. "I'll finish this," he whispered. Then he launched himself from the crashing ship. Like a comet, he fell toward the closest Zarnak warship. He landed hard. The metal cracked beneath him. Inside the ship, soldiers ran toward the impact zone. They found the hull glowing, and him standing in the middle of it, alive, burning, eyes full of war. The cold wind touched the mountain peaks of Colorado, where the last Earth orphanage stood quietly under a broken sky dome. The building was small, made of recycled steel and old solar panels. Inside, 57 orphan children lived together. They had lost their families during the early battles with alien species. Earth had kept them hidden, protected in this secret place, far from war, far from pain. Ellie, a small girl with only one arm, sat outside near the edge of the snow hill. Her smile was soft, her eyes filled with wonder. In her other hand, she held a tiny wooden toy, a bird that her caretaker had made for her. She watched the sky, whispering dreams to the stars. She wanted to be a pilot one day. She wanted to fly far away and find her parents. But the stars didn't answer that night. Somewhere above Earth, a hidden alien ship hovered. The Zarnak, cold, heartless creatures from the black system of Verak, had found the orphanage. They didn't see children. They saw humans. And in their eyes, humans were nothing but threats. Inside the control room of the ship, a tall Zarnak commander gave the order. "Clean the surface. No survivors." The silence of the mountain broke with a sharp scream. A line of fire came from the sky like falling lightning. The children looked up. Some pointed, some smiled, thinking it was a new ship. Then the ground shook. Explosions tore through the orphanage. Fire swallowed the building. The snow melted in seconds. Screams echoed in the wind. Small voices full of fear, calling for help that would never come. Ellie ran. She didn't scream. She held her wooden bird tightly and searched for her friends. But the sky broke again. Another strike hit near her. She fell. Her face hit the cold ground. Her toy rolled away, catching fire. She reached for it. And then, the third blast came. The last sound was not a scream, it was a whisper. "Mom." The Zarnak ship turned and vanished into the stars, leaving only smoke and silence behind. But they didn't know something was watching. High above Earth, a satellite recorded everything. It was part of an old Terran system, an old eye, forgotten by most. But its feed still ran. It sent the video straight to Earth Central Command. Inside the dark war room, leaders watched the footage. No one spoke. The room was filled with cold breaths and stiff bodies. On the screen, Ellie's burned toy rested in the ashes. A small bird, turned black by fire. General Reeve, a silent man with steel-gray eyes, stood at the edge of the table. He didn't speak. His hand reached under the desk and pulled out a black case. The case had no keys, no locks, just a code. Flameheart. Everyone in the room looked at it. "Are we doing this?" one commander whispered. Reeve didn't answer. He opened the case. Inside was a red crystal. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Cold lights blinked. On the side was a warning. "Only in case of Earth's children." General Reeve picked it up. "Send the signal," he said. A young officer hesitated. "Sir, Flameheart is not safe. He's not stable." Reeve looked him in the eyes. Neither is grief. Far under the Earth's surface, in a cryo-chamber buried in steel and time, a man opened. His eyes. His body was scarred, his arms metal, his breath slow and full of pain. He didn't ask where he was, he didn't care. He looked at the officer standing beside his chamber. "Why now?" he asked, his voice deep and rough. The officer's hands shook. They bombed the orphanage, all of them. Gone. The man didn't blink. He didn't move. Then slowly, he rose from the chamber and said 5 words. "Point me at the stars." Back in the war room, the video of the burning orphanage kept playing. No one turned it off. No one could. The Earth had lost children before, but never like this. This was not war. This was murder, and humanity had decided it was time to burn. Back. The man who woke in the deep chamber had no real name anymore. People once called him a hero. Later they called him a monster. Now they called him something else. Flameheart. He stepped out of the cryo chamber, steam rising from his metal arms. His skin was pale, almost ghost-like. His eyes were red, glowing, slightly like burning coals. He didn't speak much. He didn't need to. Pain had carved silence into his soul. As he walked down the steel hallway, officers backed away from him. His presence was heavy, like heat before a storm. The hallway lights flickered when he passed. The officer from earlier followed behind him, afraid to get too close. "Your ship is ready," the officer said. "We've tracked the Zarnak fleet. They're hiding on a moon near the Red System. Orders are simple. Wipe them out." Flameheart didn't answer. He walked into the arming bay where an old black suit of armor stood waiting for him. It wasn't made for defense, it was made for destruction. The words, "For the Lost," were carved into the chest plate. He placed a hand on it. For a moment, his glowing eyes dimmed. A memory flashed in his mind. A girl, small, laughing, holding his hand. He blinked it away. With smooth movements, he stepped into the armor. It closed around him with a low hiss. The red lines on the suit came alive. It was as if the armor remembered him and welcomed him back. "Did they hurt children?" he asked quietly. The officer nodded. Flameheart's voice turned sharp. "How many?" 57. For a second, everything stopped. Then Flameheart turned toward the launch bay. Inside the Zarnak command ship orbiting their hidden moon, the alien general received a message. It wasn't words, it wasn't threats. It was a flame, a burning symbol shaped like Earth's old war emblem. It appeared on every screen. The Zarnak laughed. "Earth sends a fire," the general said. "Let it burn. We are stone." But even stone can melt. Flameheart's ship, a black spear with red thrusters, cut through space like a quiet scream. No escort, no backup, just him. Back on Earth, General Reeve stood by a screen, watching the live signal from Flameheart's ship. His hands were tight behind his back. "Do you think he'll come back?" one of his officers asked. Reeve didn't blink. "I think that doesn't matter anymore." Meanwhile, on the Zarnak moon, alarms suddenly began to howl. Something had entered their space. Something fast. Something hot. Within seconds, the outer defense grid failed. Flameheart's ship didn't even slow down. It crashed into the main bay of the moon's largest base. Not a landing. A strike. The walls exploded. Fire poured into the halls. Flameheart stepped out of the wreck, smoke swirling around him. The first Zarnak guards aimed their weapons. He walked through their fire like it was nothing. With each bullet that hit him, he moved faster. With each wound, he burned hotter. The Zarnak screamed. They had never seen a human like this. He didn't shoot. He didn't run. He crushed their weapons, tore through steel, and left only ash behind. One alien begged for mercy. Flameheart grabbed it by the throat. "Did you see them?" he asked. The alien shook its head. "Then look," Flameheart growled, holding a small screen to the alien's face. The video of the orphanage bombing played. Screams, fire, a little girl reaching for a burning toy. The alien's eyes widened. Now, Flameheart whispered, "Feel it." The base shook as explosions ripped through the lower levels. Power failed. Sirens died. In the sky above, Earth's spy satellites showed one clear message. The fire has landed, and it will not stop. The war had changed. This was not about soldiers anymore. This was about the lost, and Flameheart had only just begun.